Hey everybody, good morning. It is Spiritual Healthcare Day 64. Welcome to all of you. This is going to be the second day that we're talking about universal laws and some of the principles that make teaching the living work. Why this stuff works, and we're going to get into that here today, and I'm stoked. I'm excited about it. So good morning everybody, welcome. It is, as I say again, yet another day, spiritual healthcare. This is awesome. Always got to plug back in and start our day with like some good energy. So this is awesome. So good morning Patricia and Jay and Marge, nice to see everybody. Good morning to all of you. It is good to see everybody logging in the morning. It's so good. As I say, today we're going to keep going and talk more about the spiritual laws. We're going to talk about the second one, or the universal laws, and they really are the fuel that gets teaching the living working. So we're going to get into the second one today. The other day we talked about the law of thinking. Today we're going to talk about the law of supply. Good morning Dan and Wes and Nigel and Chris. Nice to see you. Nice Kaz. Nice to see you. Will, nice to see you. It is good to see everybody. Yeah, I had a great day yesterday, Cass. I did. It was good. I played Pokemon Go a bunch of the day, which was it was a good day off. So that was, yeah. I don't get to do a lot of that, and then I spent a chunk of the day still working and setting up meetings and stuff like that to get EntitySeeker rolling, into this new economy, into this new world, into what we're everything that's going on. So yeah, it's been really crazy. We've been overhauling everything over the last little bit. So it's been nuts. Good morning Dale and Sally, nice to see you. Yeah, today's gonna be awesome because I loved on the other day, it was on Saturday, we talked about the law of thinking. So for those of you guys who weren't there for that, we talked about the idea that there are really laws to thought and universal laws that kind of govern a lot of the things that we've been talking about. And I've been fortunate enough over the years to be associated with the Proctor Gallagher Institute through the Teaching the Living program, so they're kind of like intermeshed with with one of their programs as well. Bob Proctor is amazing, you guys. If you are not familiar with him, he founded the Proctor Gallagher Institute a number of years ago and has studied under Napoleon Hill, who wrote the incredible book Think and Grow Rich. Among others. Like he's just phenomenal, and so I'm thankful to be an affiliate with them because they're really great. So but when I started teaching the living, I didn't know any of this stuff. It was brand new stuff to me. And I just sort of I pieced through it with paranormal research, and then I began to realize this isn't just about the paranormal. This is about governing our minds, our thoughts, and the world around us, and how we get to navigate it. So, we talked about, as I say, the law of thinking, and the fact that thoughts literally move 186,000 miles per second. 186,000 miles per second. Like, what in the? That's crazy. It's hard to get your mind around that. It's like, it's literally like the speed to get from one pole to the other. It's unbelievable. And 930,000 times faster than the sound of our voice. So it's really crazy. What we think is just so important because it governs that overall experience around us. So we're going to talk about the law of supply today because it is so important to understand, I think, where some of this stems from and comes from, and as we kind of move through our world coming up, in the next little while, to sort of have a grounding about what this is all about. So, good morning, Brandy and Shadow. Nice to see you guys. They say it's overcast and ready for a thunderstorm in Austin. Jealous. We haven't really had a thunderstorm in Edmonton yet. Like, we had a little bit of thunder at one point, but we haven't had like a good thunderstorm yet. So I'm hoping. It's cloudy here today, but it is supposed to be like 22. So maybe, I don't know, maybe. Maybe we'll get a good thunderstorm. Edmonton, for those of you guys who don't know, Alberta and Edmonton is like, it's very much prairie. Like we have one of the biggest river valley systems in Canada. So we have this like really sort of like lush green forest that runs right through our city with the North Saskatchewan River. But all around the city and stuff like that is all prairie. So sometimes we'll get hit with tornadoes and all sorts of crazy stuff. So It's like, you never know. You never know what the hell's going on in Alberta with weather. Like, ever. It's insane. It's like 1 minute it's fine, and then you look over your shoulder, it'll be like blue sky, and then you'll look over your shoulder and it's like this great big black front of a system. Yeah, and it made me laugh because when the movie Twister came out, everybody was criticizing it because on the one side, you know, the camera would shoot blue sky, and then they would turn around and it would be this great big black, you know, front that was coming in, and they said, oh, that's not realistic. The whole cloud, you know, the whole sky should be gray. And I'm like, you guys haven't been to the prairies at all. No, that's just totally not how it, that's not how it works. It's like, it's literally like Jekyll and Hyde, two sides of the sky. It's crazy. So we're gonna talk about some of this today and delve into this. And I also wanted to delve into a really great question that somebody had posted. I'm just gonna find it here because it was so good. It was so good, and I want to start with the question because it was really awesome. Okay, so here it is. So the question that came in was, can a spirit interact with your emotions and cause emotional distress in your life? I thought this was so cool, and I thought this was a great way to kind of start this class today, because I think it generates a lot of conversation. You know, we hear about a lot of people that, you know, they go into haunted places and like they feel a certain way, or, you know, they've experienced a haunting and they're feeling ups and downs and lows and highs and all of this kind of thing. So I'm going to tell you guys my take on it because, I get this question a lot. I see this a lot on some of the TV shows and stuff like this. And I think it's really important that we understand that our emotions and our emotional center really is our responsibility. It really is. And the more that we can remain centered and level within ourselves and understanding those sort of that fine tuning of emotions that we've talked about, we don't get dragged off. No matter, and it doesn't matter what the influence is, right? Like whether it's you know, thought forms in the environment, whether it be an incident that's happened to you, whatever it is, the more we can understand how to not wobble in our state of being, the less we get pulled from one side to the other. So, you know, do I think like spirits per se can influence our emotions? I don't, in the sense that, you know, I don't think they can cause us to, you know, feel upset or feel sad or things like that. I don't. I think that is our responsibility. However, I think we get pulled off as people. We get pulled off in the ditch by those around us, and I think spirits can cause that as well. You know, like if we are not centered in who we are and our experience, we can get dragged off. And you know, we'll see this all the time, even just on social media and stuff like that, right? Like we'll get on Facebook and, you know, somebody's made a comment or, you know, done something stupid. There's a lot of that, especially lately, like a lot lately. Like, I don't know if you guys have noticed your news feeds, but it's like sometimes it's like you're scrolling and you're going, how did I befriend these people? Thankfully, not very many on mine, but every once in a while, there's like a couple of posts where you're going, the hell is wrong with you? They don't have an emoji for that yet. They need a little emoji that I don't know what that would look like. What would that look like? The little what the hell is wrong with you face? I don't know. But there's got to be one of those. But I think, you know, when we are susceptible to getting are pulled off one way or the other, and we get that wobble in the center of who we are, and be able to that ability to focus, when we lose that ability to focus, we tend to get dragged off in the ditch. And sometimes I'll hear this from you know, people that consider themselves empaths and things like that, where they're just saying like, oh my God, I'm just getting yanked all over the place. And I really think that the more that we can center and are grounded in that vibration of well-being, we just don't allow access to our emotional well-being and our center in the same way. You know, we're not willing to get pulled off in that ditch because we catch it earlier, number one. And number two, I think we can, you know, we begin to know what are the go-to thoughts for us to feel good and us to feel better and centered and stay in our you know, in our core being. I think that's all really, really important. So I know, interestingly enough, when we get into haunted places, for instance, and not necessarily even haunted places, just those places in general, especially places that have had a large emotional impact on people, oftentimes you'll walk into a space, and I've had this happen, where immediately you can feel that something's just off. If there's been a lot of trauma in the location, oftentimes the energy tends to feel kind of heavy, like there's a heavy feeling in the space. And I use the word energy very loosely. And in this context, I use it in the sense of an emotional energy, right? But when we walk into a place like that, it tends to feel a little bit more dense. It feels just, it doesn't make you feel good. But the ability as an investigator, or just, as an individual, to be able to remain apart from that, to be able to be the observer of that emotion, and sort of take a step back from it and go, hey, wait a minute, like, I can feel this emotion and not be attached to it. And that's always something that I think is super key and super important when we're dealing with this stuff. I do the same thing when I get into, if somebody wants to get into an argument with me, or like, is challenging me on something, or, just after me about something. I go into that same mode where immediately I just emotionally, I disconnect from that. And then I'm able to observe it a little bit better. And then I can turn around and either, and I can respond to it rather than react to it. Right? I want to be able to respond rather than react, so I don't get sucked in, and sometimes you get people, and they go nuts. We get crazy people yelling and screaming and this kind of garbage, and they're, it's like just ridiculousness. And at that point, as I say, you disengage. You just disengage. And that always helps with that. So I think, can spirit interact with your emotions and cause emotional distress? I don't think so. I don't think that's what, pure positive energy is there to do. I think we have the ability to be still and allow our own well-being. The more we're still and the more we connect in with that non-physical energy, the more our emotions raise, and we feel better and better, because I truly believe our natural state is joy. I really do. And the more we don't do those crazy things that cause us to separate ourselves from that well-being and that joy, that's our state of being. So that leads us into today's discussion, which is the law of supply. So what in the hell is the law of supply? The law of supply, it really does dictate that there is a supply for the energy that creates worlds, the manifestational consciousness, and that there is a direct supply. And the analogy that I always love about this is, if you turn around and you've got multiple droplets of mercury or multiple droplets of water, and you put those droplets down, and as you kind of nudge them together, they absorb into one, right? Like they absorb into one. And so you might have started out with 3 droplets, and you end up with a puddle, basically, right? And I mean, what do you think the chances are of you separating those droplets into your 3 droplets again? It's not very good. It's not very good. And if you're able to do it, then you're going to have particles and protons and energy and all of these things all wrapped up into each one. They're all going to bleed into one another. You're not going to be able to separate them in the same way that you did before. And this is the analogy that I like to use when we talk about non-physical energy and the law of supply, because once we start to realize that is all interconnected and those things all join up together, then we can start to understand that this is kind of how we work too. We don't really ever separate from that which, from all that is. We really don't. So we've got this ability now to be able to take a step back and go, hey, wait a minute. If we've got this infinite level of supply and source and all of that, we can start to take a look at not only our lives and what we're projecting a little bit different, but also the paranormal and spirits and stuff like that as well. So when we begin to look at something like, the idea that this energy, gets stuck somewhere, or, these intelligences, get stuck and don't return to source and all of this kind of thing, it really starts to not make a whole lot of sense. Because when we begin to understand that, all of this is just one great big interconnected, mess, really. Like it's beautiful chaos is what it is. It's beautiful chaos. And once we can start to understand that, then we begin to understand that it is all just an ebb and flow of this consciousness. So that's what the law of supply is the understanding that we really can't be separated from that which is our well-being, that which is this greater source of energy. So when we start to understand that all that is, projected out there, what we project out there thought-wise, what we begin to understand in our, in our own minds, and the thoughts that we end up projecting and manifesting in our world, whether it be an entity or whether it be a thing that we've really wanted or anything like that, it really becomes all the same. The same thing. When we understand that supply is infinite, we begin to realize we can really create whatever we want. Victoria is saying it's like surface tension, the bonds meld together. Yeah, exactly. That's a great example. Is that, yeah, they are. It's exactly like that. And when we begin to understand that this is all interconnected, then we stop doing that thing we do, especially with hauntings, where we kind of separate ourselves from everything that's going on within it. And we have a problem with that as a society. We like to think that everything is out there and nothing is being caused by what we are thinking, what our emotions are, how we're projecting things, and where our thoughts are going. Yes, the other day, it wasn't yesterday, it was Saturday, we discussed, as I say, the law of thinking and the idea that when we are pushing in one direction with the momentum of our thinking, then we end up really pushing into whatever it is that we're trying to get the momentum of going. So I think the problem with this is that people think that if we think and we focus on the problem and we hammer on the problem enough, then what ends up happening is, we think we're going to solve this problem when in fact it's the complete opposite. We're giving this momentum to this issue, and we're creating more of a problem rather than getting on the vibration of the solution. So if we're focusing on what's wrong, then we end up pushing more momentum into what's wrong and we get more of it. Where instead, if we turn around, we start to focus our attention on what it is that we want. In the case of a haunting, it's like, we want to be able to focus on those peaceful moments. We want to be able to focus on, the well-being of the family, those times that were peaceful, all of that kind of thing. Yeah, when we apply this to the idea of the pandemic, is focusing on well-being, focusing on people's health, focusing on the people that are recovering, people, and all of that kind of thing. When we begin to put momentum into that and start to focus there, we get more of that. So I've had a number of discussions with people over the last number of months, saying, well, we can't turn a blind eye to it, and it's not about turning a blind eye at all. What it is about deciding where we want that momentum to be. Do we want it into the problem or do we want it into the solution? What do you want to do? It's not about ignoring it at all. It's about deciding where we want to push that momentum. So when we get the fact that there's a law of thinking and we get the fact that there's a law of supply, then we understand that supply really is infinite. It really is infinite. This is the energy that creates worlds. This is something that is so powerful. It's so direct, and we are so connected with it. It was cool, actually. I had a great discussion yesterday about the idea of having that constant communication with non-physical, and the fact that there is no time. And I loved this because we had a great conversation about it, and we went down the rabbit hole. We went down the rabbit hole a little bit yesterday, and we were talking about the idea that when we understand that this supply and we are part of something that is so infinite, then we stop really caring about all of those deadlines that we have imposed on ourselves that we think we have, and understand that we just never get it done. We really don't get it done. There's always going to be another thing that we want to accomplish and do, and when we can understand that there's that infinite supply of energy for it, and then we can sit back a little bit and take a breath. We're never going to be at a place where all of this work is finished. So it was a really great conversation. I think it was so pertinent for today's subject, because when we really have that understanding and depth of, you know, when people pass away or make their transition or whatever is going on, and we understand the infiniteness of that energy, man, is it ever incredible. It really will fill you up in a massive way, and it's not coming from a perspective of lack at all. You know, so many oftentimes, you know, texts and people and leaders and all of these different things, they will really try to push the idea that there is not enough. And we've really got to get over that as a society. We really do, you know, that there's not enough of this or not enough of that, or, you know, somebody's got too much money, somebody's got too, those concepts are very lack based. And the law of supply is all about correcting that thinking. And when you really understand that this stuff is infinite, that we can manifest and create into the world around us the things that we really want, you know, if we're focused in the right way, then we stop feeling that sense of lack. Just because it's not in the physical world doesn't mean that it's not, you know, existing in thought, and that thought form can be brought into our experience in a very physical way. All the thought, everything around us was thought at one point. Everything, like everything. You know, at one point, you know, an airplane was a thought. You know, it was a thought, and then the Wright brothers were like, "Hey, wait a minute. You know, we can make that into something else. You know, we can make that a reality. We can figure that out. You know, and being able to channel that genius, and all of a sudden, you know, you've got this you trial and error, and you've got this incredible machine. But absolutely everything started as thought." And there's an infinite supply of thought as well. You know, we have access to all of this information. I get often asked about the idea that, you know, oh, I need a medium or something like that to communicate with my loved ones, because if I don't have a medium, then I can't communicate with non-physical. And that's just so, it's not true. You know, it's something that I think a lot of, you know, some of the fraudsters and stuff would like to make us think that, because, you know, then we pay them money and we come back over and over and over again, pay them a lot of money. But it's honestly, it's not something that you need that for. It really isn't. We have this infinite connection, and it goes back to those water droplets, right? It goes back to the water droplets. Just because you are, you know, maybe a water droplet over here does not mean you don't have access and all the particles of the water and things like that from where you came. And, you know, we always have that connection. And as soon as we go back, all of those particles just meld back together again. So I don't think there's a separation between, you know, who we are and who we are as physical beings, and that infinite stream of non-physical information. It's incredible. And when we tune into it, you know, I believe that's what genius is that ability to be still and be able to tune into all of that brilliant inspiration, and then you become the conduit, right? You become the conduit, and it's really incredible. So I wanted to read a little bit today from the 20th Plane, from my great-great-grandfather's book, actually, The 20th Plane, by Albert Durant Watson, because when he was doing sessions with Louis Benjamin, they asked about some of this stuff as well. And I thought some of this was so relevant for today. It was so relevant because, man, the messages that they ended up getting, and my great-great-grandfather had the privilege of being the scribe for and recording, were pretty incredible. So as he was asking these questions of non-physical, and they were responding through the channel of Louis Benjamin, they came back with some very interesting information about this. So check this out. The soul is reaching up for a proper relationship with the divine. And A.D. Watson asks, well, what's the divine? All the universe. God is, as someone has said, the uncaused cause of all phenomena. Who said that? I think Professor Bond, I'm not sure, but Bergson accepts it. Is God from everlasting to everlasting? Yes, 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 was the answer. Would it be right to say that the physical universe is the physical body of God? And they said, all matter is a part of him. Is astral substance matter? Intensified matter. Cannot we get some explanation of the term uncaused cause? No, because it's uncaused. That's not the language that we use today. I know, it's ours. That was Aristotle's idea, said A.D. Watson. Aristotle is now a Socrates because he knew that. Are your views substantially the same as before you passed over? And they said, now they are a continuation of them. Any particulars in which they have changed, or you have changed? He asked. Yes, I raved against those I should have loved. The high estimation of prayer, says A.D. Watson, is shown in the dialogues in many instances. Is prayer of great value? The one great essential, but we do not mean lit prayer. Do you mean praying, say, morning and evening, or is it a state of life? It is, they said, a state of life. And I love this bit because I think what they touch on here is so important. And they're not talking about this from a religious perspective. They're talking about this from a very universal perspective. And when they discuss stuff like that great sort of non-physical energy and whatnot, and they are really emphasizing this idea that gratitude, appreciation, walking through our world, step by step by step by step, and being conscious of that state of being, of just being grateful, being thankful, being in what they call prayer, which is that constant connection with non-physical, and not causing that separation through negative thought and just being out of our own inner being integrity. I love the idea of prayer being the state of being, because, as I say, we're not talking about this in religious sense. We're talking about it being in the sense of gratitude and being able to be present in the moment and moving through this, knowing that this law of supply is fundamental to everything that we're experiencing, and that we have access to. To remember that this is not a lack-based universe. It's really not. There is enough. There's enough for everybody, and there is enough for it to go around on so many different levels. So the process today is to turn around and be conscious of that today. Be in the consciousness of gratitude, of walking through your day, in that prayer state of being, of just thank you for whatever it is. And it could be something like, what, I'm just thankful I'm breathing today. I'm just thankful I'm breathing today. That is, like, I can breathe easy today, because there's so many people right now that we know, are in the hospital, and they're struggling for every single breath that they're taking. And so it might just be that today is just be in that state of prayer. Thank you that I can walk through my day and breathe today, easily. So whatever it is. So, Marge is saying, yeah, she gets it. It's a state of being. Exactly. That's what this is. It's not something that we're doing. It's something that we are. And when we understand that, and we can grab that on that fundamental level, it just changes how we're going to move through our experience, and understanding that is flowing all the time. And we get to choose. We get to make the decision how we're going to move through our experience. What are we going to do with this? And once we make that choice, it's going to be really cool. Tomorrow we're going to do another one of the laws. As I say, all of these are the fundamentals which make teaching the living work, and they're just brilliant. So, that being said, we can't go through our rest of our day without our health affirmations, because they're so important. So, everybody take a breath. It is natural for my body to be well. Even if I don't know what to do in order to get better, my body does. I have trillions of cells with individual consciousness, and they are learning how to achieve their individual balance. When this condition began, I didn't know what I know now. I don't need to understand the cause of this illness. I only have to gently, eventually release this illness. It doesn't matter how it got started, because it's reversing its course right now. And there's no hurry about any of this. My body knows what to do. Well-being is natural to me. My inner being is intricately aware of my physical body. My cells are asking for what they need in order to thrive, and Source is answering those requests. I am in very good hands. My only work is to relax and breathe, and I can do that easily. Everybody take a breath. So today we walk into our journey in the state of prayer, that state of connection with all that is non-physical, and know in our beings that this is not a lack-based universe. This is an abundant universe, and it is about well-being. And as we move through our day, remember that every time you have that feeling of lack, the supply is there for you. It's whether or not you decide that you're going to tune into it. If you want to tune into it and you're able to tune into it, then it will provide you with what you need. It always does. It just always does. That's how the universe works. So everybody, I will see you guys tomorrow morning on Spiritual Healthcare. If you guys have any questions, comments, all of that, please send them in. I try to get to as many as I possibly can, and I love reading them. I love it. So please send everything in, and I will see you guys tomorrow morning on Spiritual Healthcare, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, guys. Please share it and stay tuned. So I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Bye, everybody.